Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today for this special subject. I've actually never spoken about men and well-being for men when I think it's so important, especially nowadays where I feel we are emphasizing a lot on well-being and growth and spirituality for women, which is amazing. I love it and I participate in that. But I also feel for men who are kind of left behind in the sense that you are, if you're listening to me and you're a man, also allowed to feel, to grow, to transform, to become confident, whole, and fulfilled in life. And I don't think it's only for women. Obviously, there is a general balance in terms of, rights and yes, just balance between men and women in society, in the world, which was still very much needed. And I think that we kind of got to the point where, okay, we are equal. Many people have, come here and use their voice and truth to be able to bring this equalness in our world today. And I just feel that now perhaps there's a slight imbalance that's being created the other way round, meaning that we are making too much of it women-wise, and men are again being left behind. There is also a lot of feminism and quite violent and harsh words I think are really not necessary to kind of get to a point. I mean, again, if we can just communicate, listen, and maybe try and have some compassion for men and women both way rounds, if you see what I mean, rather than throwing stones at each other. And this is felt a lot, this is felt in society a lot and relationships. This is not the subject I want to get into, but it is something I will talk about soon. One day is relationships between men and women. Romantic relationships are so confused and shallow, and it's sad. So not going there. Will do one day. So I did some research because this subject of suicide for men obviously is quite heavy and can seem quite heavy. I did some research and I came up with some numbers that were quite alarming, and I was actually quite shocked. So globally, there are about more than 700,000 deaths by suicide each year, and approximately more than 500,000 are men, and more or less 200,000 or 300,000 are women. And so in terms of percentage, it's really shocking. It's 72%, basically, roughly, of all suicide deaths worldwide are men. And I mean, can we actually acknowledge that? And what came up, obviously, secondly, was why? I mean, wow, what is going on? Where is the suffering so strong, so deep, that men commit suicide? Meaning that they just can't bear with it to the point that the only solution is to take your own life. I mean, can you imagine the desperation, the lack of support, the lack of possibility, opportunities, and different perspective on life? So the first subject, or at least reason that came up, and this is not me, even though it kind of like joins, this is what came up on internet, but the first reason would be emotional suppression and societal conditioning, social conditioning, which is quite logical, isn't it? I mean, we can see that, we still raise little boys to be, tough and strong and not show their emotions, even though we're trying to kind of balance that and be a bit more, less extreme in how we raise our children and more equal in terms of basically gender traits. So little boys are strong and little girls have to be protected, and they're weaker. We are trying to balance that, and I think that it has again come to a certain point that it's there. But again, it's a matter of not kind of, creating another imbalance the other way around. So yes, men have been taught and brought up to be strong foundations. They have to be protective. They have to be the provider. They have to have a good financial situation, and you can't break down. You can't break down. You can't cry. You can't show that it's hard. You can't show that you may have some days that are just like, you're just not there and you just don't have that strength. You don't have the resources within to face life. While this is true for everyone, for women too, I feel that women have just more space and permission to be able to have less good days, break down, cry, and just share their whole emotional state. And men don't have the permission, or at least not as much, because again, I do think there has been progress, even though there is an imbalance. So what's the solution? I think that we really have to stop putting this image of a man has to be strong and a man doesn't have emotions and a man can't cry. I actually find a man who is very aligned with who he is, who basically is very masculine and feminine within, cry is very sexy. I find it beautiful. If I see a man cry, I'm not going to go like, oh my God, what is that? Like he's crying, like get me out of here. No, I'm going to go, what the fuck? Yes, beautiful. Because the thing is, a man who can feel, a man who is sensitive is a fucking strong man. A man who's sensitive, a man who can cry has balls. And I'm sorry to speak like this, but it's the truth. So why? Because to feel your emotions and to express them asks for courage. And to have courage is to be strong. So there you go again. A man can be strong. A man is strong, yes, but in a balanced and healthy way. In a way where he can express his emotions, he can seek for help when he needs it, he can ask for support when it gets too hard, when he just can't handle it all on his own. And this is where the balance of the masculine and the feminine energy within is so important. And it's important for women, but it's important for men also. Maybe even more if we read the numbers. 72% of suicides per year are men. So can we stop throwing stones at men, Yes, we have got out of patriarchy. We're out of there. There is no need to go on about it again and again. Let's try now and be able to be more compassionate and understanding and open communication between men and women. And, you know, when a woman has a balance of her masculine and feminine energy within, she is aligned, empowered, fulfilled, and confident. She shines. She doesn't need to prove, and she doesn't need to fight, and she doesn't need to attack men. A man who is balanced with his energies within, feminine and masculine, is strong, is magnetic, shines bright, and has the resources within to face life, to grow, and to become who he wants to be. And so this is accessible to all of us. But of course, yes, we have to become aware. And, you know, society will have to catch up at some point. And again, it's like everything. It's one person after the other. It's you, it's me, and one after the other, we can become aware. We can be understanding, and we can make that effort to change things. Change things for a general well-being, for, you know, just a general awareness and consciousness on this earth, and stop lying to ourselves for everything. Can we be more real? Can we be more authentic? And can we just sometimes break down and cry, whether we are a woman or a man? So this has nothing to do with the subject. I'm not in, obviously, a recording studio, so it's very noisy out there. It's pouring rain in Lisbon, and the traffic is terrible, and people are very, very annoyed. Yeah, you can hear that. They're very annoyed. So it's been quite hard to record. I'm not going to do several takes and like do this whole editing. So maybe I will keep it short. Maybe this is how it's meant to be. And maybe I said enough. And maybe I will talk about it again. But if you are a man and you're listening today and you have bad days and you feel that sometimes, you know, you just don't have the resources, you just don't believe anymore, and you just don't know what to do to, you know, face the challenges or change things around, or, you know, or I don't know, reach your goals, whatever it is, please, you are allowed to feel. And there is something I do want to say, is if you feel an emotion coming up and it gets stuck in your throat area, or maybe another part of your body, but I'm going to say the throat, because the throat is your voice and it's the expression of your emotions. So if you feel an emotion, it gets stuck in your throat and it can't go further and it hurts, literally, maybe even physically, try and stay with that uncomfortableness and maybe take a deep breath in and feel it, and try and soften with your breath where it feels stuck and suppressed. It's not going to remove the blockage, it's not going to remove the conditioning, and it's not going to remove anything by magic, but becoming aware of the sensation in your body of where it feels stuck, where you feel you can't express your emotions or your feelings. Try and just, you know, meet it where it is and feel it. And maybe by doing that, every time an emotion comes up, every time it may feel easier. to feel, to let go, and maybe even one day express. Maybe one day a tear will drop on your cheek. And if it does, congratulations. It's beautiful. And if you weren't allowed to do that before, well, allow yourself. You have the permission to feel those emotions, and just know that there are always solutions in life, and there's always support around you. Just reach out, talk, express, and feel. Sending you lots and lots of love, and I am not leaving men behind.